Emily in Paris is one of those shows that people just love to hate. No, really, if you were an outsider and were thinking of watching the show, don't Google it, because people really be out there dissing the entire thing shot by shot. But to give them credit, there are a few moments even we, Emily stans, thought the show took it too far. Want a head start? Keep watching this video for the list. First, we have the basic stereotype. Okay, show, we get it. Emily is the girl next door who loves basic fashion, like adding these basic charms to her bag that we got over back in our high school days. But does the whole thing really have to be so ringard? We don't blame Pierre Cadalt because even we were embarrassed. Like, girl, you work for a major luxury marketing brand that prides itself on its subtlety and sophistication. Your boss is Sylvie, the woman who literally doesn't have one hair out of place. Do you really have to be this basic when meeting one of your most important clients? And then she had to go top it off with her basic bitch speech at the opera. We'll give her because of that dress alone, but let's just say she needs to get some perspective. Next, the overly obvious marketing tactic. The very first scene in the very first episode of every season sets the tone of the show, and this one sure did with its very, very blatant marketing tactic where Emily calls the perfume like wearing poetry. Girl, chill. You didn't have to go this deep. We know marketing needs flair, but does it have to be this flary? Oh, and then she gets all worked up when Antoine Lambert makes a similar comment about her perfume that smells like expensive. Like, sure, he didn't have to go that far either, but hey, it's like the pot calling the kettle whatever color Emily's chosen to wear that day. Now, let's talk about the French stereotypes from the show. Okay, so we get that the show's based on this whole fish out of water trope with Emily being the trout in question, but does she have to be so far out of the sea to believe in all these stereotypes? First, we have the belief that French men are all starved beasts and women are all cutthroat and ruthless. Then they had this whole bit where Emily was the only righteous person to exist in all of Paris, especially when she had that whole debate about the American culture perceiving the perfume ad. Sure, it could be, but why only pick an Americanized viewpoint? It just eliminated the French culture a bit from the discussion entirely. Girl, you're in France, so when in France, you get it, right? Then we have the whole Timothy disaster. Okay, we'll give it to Emily. That guy did not look like an average 17-year-old. But then again, Emily didn't have to go up and, do it with her friend's brother as soon as she entered their home. That's just rude guest behavior, and Ada users on Reddit will hate you for it. And when she finally realized how old he was, the aftermath was even more awkward. From the family making fun of her to the mom asking how a good lover her son was. Oof, just feels awkward even talking about it. Moving on to Mindy's very Asian American character. So, the show's obviously based on the perceptions of a very white American girl whose ideas and practices all lack the fact that she needs some more exposure to international culture to get her head straight. But of the whole cast, there is one character whom fans and critics have called a token edition for diversity, and it's none other than our favorite singer, Mindy. And we say singer because as beautiful as Ashley Park's voice is, she really doesn't bring the kind of representation she's supposed to. She's very white and has very obviously stereotypical views about the French. And even though we get that the show's presenting how Paris is where you can find your second life, her character really doesn't bring the right kind of diversity that they may have intended to. Her friends all fall within the crazy rich Asian stereotype too. Oh, and fans have also suggested how casting a Korean actor in a Chinese role isn't the best decision on the show's part either. Then we have this dude, Thomas. Okay, what was the deal with this dude? He had the weirdest rules, like not making love to a girl if she doesn't have her own books. Like, what? Are you Shakespeare? Are you an author, a librarian, or just a bibliophile who cannot get over his overly enlarged ego? We said ego, guys, chill. Every time this dude opened his mouth, he said stuff that only a caricature-ish character can say. So dish it, Emily in Paris creators. Who was the guy a caricature of? Can we also talk about M's whole thing with cheating? So at first, when she finds out about Sylvie and Antoine, she was all self-righteous about their affair and how it was unfair to Lambert's wife. Oh, and Mindy too said it was a common thing in Paris and that it was probably something Lambert's wife approved of. But then, right in in the next season, she goes on and does it with Gabriel, who was her friend's boyfriend and whom she was heartbroken over. Like, girl, make up your mind or just speak your truth, because you can't balance yourself on both sides of the coin at once. Is that the show's way of telling us Emily was becoming a part of their culture? Another stereotype. Oh, and Mindy made a total 180-degree turn here too by saying French girls won't forgive you for something like this. Wasn't she the one saying how it was a common thing in that culture? There's also her basic influencer strategies. Add a few hashtags and get your game on. That's literally what Emily does in the show, especially the first season. She's literally always on the phone, and just a random post boosts her followers to thousands. Okay, have the creators not heard of the Instagram algorithm? Also, is Emily the only one creating such original content in the show that Olivia calls her up from the rest of the bunch only because she's impressed? Nah, we refuse to buy it. Plus, we also have Emily's need to always be correct. We have never seen this kind of main character energy in any other TV show protagonist in our lives, except maybe in Ross from Friends. But that's a Pandora's box we can't even touch right now. As for Emily, she just needs to be right at all times. Why? When she sleeps with Gabriel and realizes Camille's true feelings for him, she tries to do everything to help her get over him except for telling her the truth. Even at Savior, she's the one who needs to be right all the time, even though she's just a newbie and literally cannot even understand the intricacies with which they conduct business in the company. Oh, and let's just ignore how she treated Matthew Cadalt, because that one makes us want to shake her to ask her that, please, just wake up. After that, let's talk about the customer is always right. Emily's the kind of girl who probably has never worked in customer service. In fact, her character could easily fit into the upcoming Barbie movie. She acts so naively, especially in the first season, and especially in that bit where she speaks the one phrase every marketing and customer service personnel hates, that the customer is always, we can't even say the full thing. Also, she was acting like a petty Karen about the steak in Gabriel's restaurant where she kept sending it back. Like, girl, have you ever heard of myoglobin? How can she call herself a woman of the world without that basic knowledge? Also, the customer thing may be common in the US, but it's considered pretty rude to send back your food or act this entitled in the rest of the world. Could she have learned that a little? Coming up, Emily's unending work ethic. Okay, ask us to work on a weekend and we'll shut you down in a New York minute. But Emily, oh dear Emily, can you stop working for once? Really, her energy is so nauseating sometimes. While we love how she's all dedicated and inspired by her job, the whole bit about Americans working early and even on the weekends is a huge jibe at the French not being professional enough, which is rude and a very big reason why the show's really not popular among the French audience. Also, Madeline Wheeler. We know the show introduced her character as a way to balance out the call-outs about the French stereotypes they'd introduced in the first season, but could the character be any worse? She's cringy, a literal caricature of her own self, and really didn't have any boundaries or respect for the boundaries everyone else had. She was rude to Sylvie, condescending to how she'd grown the business, and had the gall to judge her for her relationships. Okay, first of all, how dare she? And as if she wasn't the worst, the show added this meta comment by Sylvie to take back all the cliches the internet had called them out for. You know, the comment where she tells Madeline how she could let the French be the judge of their own culture. We get what you're trying to do, guys, but maybe dial down on the awkwardness in the whole thing and flesh out better characters instead. Finally, we have Emily's inability to learn French. Okay, so you've been given a crazy opportunity to go to Paris and live a life only a few can imagine. You'd want to immerse yourself in that experience, right? Emily did too, but without learning the one thing that could have helped her the most, their language. Really, woman? How hard would it be to download Duolingo and get your lessons on without going into a physical class? Which she wasn't acing either, by the way. The whole thing about her not learning French and not giving its culture the due respect is just the worst. And to add to the injury, there's her letter to Camille where she tries apologizing, but just makes a fool of herself. Honestly, we don't blame Camille for calling her an illiterate sociopath. Like, Emily, we love you, but have you ever heard of proofreading or Google Translate for that matter? That's a wrap for this video. Which part of the show do you think was the worst in both seasons? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.